Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Barclay Hagan, the Director of Client Care for OnPoint, and this morning we have Linda Whitener, who is going to share some Sage 300 CRE payroll tips and tricks. As always, if you have any questions, we'll have some time at the end to address those, so you can just type them into the questions panel of the GoToWebinar panel. And with that, I will send it over to you, Linda.
Thanks, Barclay. As she said, my name is Linda Whitener, and I am a consultant with OnPoint Consulting. And we're going to go through the Sage 300 payroll tips and tricks. These are just some that I've learned over the years of using the software and then also being a consultant and passing them on to my customers. And I've got we're using this PowerPoint, and so I've got screenshots in there. But if you'd like to follow along in the software, and I have the path of where you're supposed to go, but we have the 30 minutes, so we'll try to get through all of these, and just let us know if you have any questions. So what, learning objective is to get some tips and tricks for the payroll module. So one of the big ones that I see is needed, that is the generate accruals. You can use this at the month end, the quarter end, the year end, whenever you feel it's necessary. And a lot of people have it at year end because the CPA wants to have all cost entered in for that particular year. And I had put in here dates of July, but it would also work for some year-end dates. So if we look at your period end date, which most people have that as their accounting date also, and that period end is July 3rd of 21. So all of that time would go into July's cost. But as you know, on the 3rd, everything up through June 30 is actually cost of June. It was worked in June. So what you would do on the generate accruals, when you have entered all of the time for that July 3rd week, you specifically only want to enter the time that was work done through June 30 with no July dates in there. Then you would use this generate accruals feature, and you choose to enter the accounting date option, and you would enter June 30 as the accounting date. So all of the time entries that are entered up to that point would be accrued into June. And then these accrual entries are automatically reversed when you post your payroll, when you're finished and you post the payroll as usual. It knows that they had accruals in there, and so you don't have to do anything. And so after you generate the accruals, you just proceed as usual. You don't have to do anything different. And so I think you can see where this works, especially at year end. You would enter everything through December 31, generate the accruals, and then proceed as usual. And because when you have a period ending date that's going to end in January, that would get the cost into into December. So this is the screenshot of the little window, and this is it. So you would choose enter accounting date, and that's an important part because The other option is period ending date, but that's, defeating the purpose. You're not really doing anything. So you would do enter accounting date, and then the accounting date that goes in here would be June 30. And then you'd hit the start. And that is the generate accruals. Another little thing that I like is on the 941 preparation report. You print this every week in order to pay your 941s. And I see a lot of times people are over on one week, they're short on another week. They never pay exactly what they're supposed to pay. If you follow this little procedure, uh, you'll pay what you're supposed to pay. So you want to run the report off of the new file. And because since your last posting, anything that you're doing in payroll is in the new file. You also want to make sure in the PR settings that write voided checks to the new file box is checked. When you run the 941 report on that new file, you don't have to put in any dates on there. You just leave those fields blank and just have it print, because you're wanting to gather every piece of information that's in the new file and pay the taxes on it. So possibly you could have voided a check from a previous period ending date, and that's why it's important to have write voided checks to the new file. So it will put that voided check information out there so that you can get credit for those taxes that were paid on that check that you just voided. And you might re-enter the check and using that other period ending date, but it might be for a different dollar amount and all. So you don't want to have things posted. A lot of people run this report after the checks are posted, but you've got now 2 different period ending dates. So that becomes a hassle trying to pick out just that one that was voided and get everything straight. So the intent on this process is the new file collects all the information that you're doing since the last time you posted. Now, if you run one check and you have to get it posted for whatever reason, you post that, but then run this report on that check that you're going to post so that you can pay the taxes on it. Then there's everything else that's out there in the new file that gets paid more and posted in a lump sum. So your process would be doing your payroll. When you're done, print the 941 preparation report off of the new file, not giving it any dates, and then posting. You don't want to add any more information to that new file after you run this report. And there's a lot of other reports also that could be run off of the new file. It's just if you get in the habit of doing that, because then you don't have to give it any kind of parameters. It's just give me everything that's in that new file. And so if you're not able to choose the transaction file, if when you go to run this report, it just goes directly to the parameters and, what check date do you want, then we just have to modify the report. but it's just one simple little click of a box. And we can help you do that, and then you'll be able to choose the new file. But this keeps a lot of people out of trouble and having penalties on paying their taxes because they're not paying enough or on time. So we like to help out in that area. Customizing the time entry to suit your needs. A lot of people don't realize that you can customize that grid so that, because when you're in doing time entry, you can click on a detail button to see some other information that's out there if it's not on the grid. But if you're constantly having to do that and you want to see that column, just put it in your grid. And so you can change the order of them. You can add columns, remove columns. One that usually I like to add is a description at the very end, because you can put a description on a time entry. And what that I use that for is if somebody's taking PTO or vacation or out sick, and then they come back later and say, I don't remember turning in anything, or, why did you, take PTO for that or put me on sick leave? In that description, when you're entering it, you could say, called in, daughter was in the hospital, or, um, whatever kind of description or explanation that the employee gave you at the time, you can put that in there. And then when you relay that information to them, sometimes it helps them remember the time that they took off and what it was for. So, but this, you can reorganize the columns to make for faster entry, and maybe, match it up with how your timesheet looks if you're taking them off of then. So it just aids in that aspect. Then there's another one that a lot of people don't use, and it's the changing the posted time entries. Sometimes and sometimes you have to put it on the next week's check, taking it off of one job and putting it on a another job to move all that cost. But if you are able to, you might try using this change posted time entries, and it can be used to change where the time was charged, but you cannot use it if the check net would change. So if the job that you're trying to put it to uh, would have some extra add-ons that they're supposed to get paid for, anything that changes the net amount. Maybe the other job is a certified job, and instead of getting paid the $18.74 an hour, he might be getting $25 an hour. You can't use it in those instances, because you're not actually voiding this check, you're just changing where it was coded to. So as you can see in the screenshot, where the job and the cost code are white, you can change those fields. But as you can see, you the pay ID or the units. It's just really for a miscoding of the job or the cost code. But it's a lot easier, and it keeps it in the same period ending date and everything. So instead of putting it in the next period ending date with a positive and a negative, but sometimes that is necessary. But if you can just use this quick change method here, it definitely helps out. So this one is the Owner Controlled Insurance Program, also known as OSIP. And a lot of customers don't know how to set this up, or they just say that it's not subject to workers' comp. But when the owner has to do the reconciliation on that project, they still want to know where your guys worked and in what classification they worked. But you're not having any cost of workers' comp or the general liability. Now, there's some other ones, the CSIP and ROSIP, which you have cost either on workers' comp or the general liability. So the numbers can be modified. I use here number 99 for the OSIP jobs, but you can use 97 or 98 for CSIP and ROSIP. It's just up to you. But we changed the numbers here. So 5606 is the executive supervisor, but instead of just using the 5606, I appended on the 99 to it. And the cost on that code is the 0.00001. And you'll see that in the next slide. So the step one in your workers' comp and GL fringe tables, so you have one called WC, that's a fringe, and then you have a fringe that's called GL. So we need to add these numbers to that table, and then the rate is the 0.00001, which it has to have something in there, but this, when you round, it will not charge anything. So that's in this table. This is the workers' comp table. And so then you would click the table button, and over here is where we added the state. And so it has the 5251, the normal one up here, but the 5251.99 is the OSIP rate, which it's 0. Then the step 2 of this is to set up a workers' comp table, cost code work comp table, and also to set it up in the job so that it pulls that correctly. So this is setting up the OSIP table. For the normal ones, you might have just plain old WC here. And if you're doing OSIP or ROSIP, I'm sorry, ROSIP and CSIP, you would have tables for those also, because the numbers in those wouldn't be 99, they would be 97 and 98. So this cost code work comp table is saying that anybody working from cost code 1-000 to 1-999 goes to 8815.99. And then if they're working in the nines, then it's the 5445. If they're working in the tens, it's the 5251. So when you have a table like this set up and the job tells it to look at that workers' comp group of OSIP, then it will automatically change the workers' comp code for that line item to be these. So if this was a regular job, it would just say WC, and it would not pull the numbers with the 99 because this one would be set up differently. But especially when it's an OSIP job, you don't want it costing the job with any workers' comp. So this takes care of it automatically. And then you can still get your workers' comp reports, the 8815, the one that does cost you money, those numbers would be on that report. But then also for this job, you would have these numbers, which tells them, you know, it's finishing cost code, but it is an OSIP, but at least they have the hours and they have all of the information that they need to report it to their insurance company so they can pay the workers' comp and the general liability on it. And so I know this can be a little confusing. And so if you need any kind of help setting up these tables, or even if you weren't aware of this workers' comp group, just for the regular workers' comp, we can help you set that up too. And so now that the job is set up to automatically retrieve the 99, you don't have anything to worry about. But if you're not using those cost code work comp tables, then you'll need to manually change the work comp code to the 99 code when entering time on an OSIP job, because it's going to default with however it's finding his work comp code right now, but you'll just have to add the 99 on the end of whatever it's pulling up. So you have much more reporting capabilities uh, on the OSIP jobs, and you know, you're not being costed with anything when you shouldn't have that cost out there to begin with. You're not overstating any cost on the job. So, and those were the ones that I came up with this time. So using the generate accruals feature either at month end, quarter end, or year end, running the 941 preparation report and any other reports on the new file, customizing your time entry, change posted time entries, and setting up the workers' comp codes for OSIP or ROSIP and CSIP. And so that's the end of this PowerPoint. And I know I probably rushed through it. I just wanted to make sure that I would get through everything. And so just let us know how we can help you on setting any of that up. Barkley, I will send it back to you.
Thank you, Linda. And like Linda mentioned, if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach us, contact us at any time. You can reach us at clientcare@onpoint-software.com. We also have all of our free procedure guides on our website, onpoint-software.com. And to keep up to date on upcoming events and other resources, you can follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you. Everybody have a great day.